Grimes if he does return. So it's fair to say last season didn't go as Philadelphia expected here. We all know their success. It centers literally around their center, Joel Embiid. So, Ramona, it's been a minute since we've heard from Joel on his health. We did hear Daryl Morey say he expects to be good to go for training camp. Can you shed some more light on that?
Yeah, there's optimism he'll be back for training camp, and he's been doing well. He's actually in Philadelphia, and I think that's a difference from years past where usually he's out here in Los Angeles for the summer, but this year he's staying close to Philly where they're watching him every day. They see him all the time, and he was actually at a Real Madrid game at Lincoln Field the other day. So you've seen Joel around town, and I think I hesitate to use even the word optimism, right, when we talk about his return timeline. But Daryl Morey said it, so we're going to repeat it. And he's working hard at his rehab, and we'll see where he ends up and when we see him on the court again. Okay, before we talk about the expectations for the Philadelphia 76ers, I want to check in with our Bobby Marks here just on where this roster stands. I sound like a New Yorker. Bobby Marks. We're going to check in with Bobby Marks. Bobby Marks. I'm channeling the city of brotherly love here, but can you just show us what Philly's roster looks like?
Well, Ohm in the prior segment talked about Jonathan Kuminga being a restricted free agent. Philadelphia has their own restricted free agent. And Quentin Grimes here. He is still on the market. Probably him and Cam Thomas, the best shooting guards. He is a priority for Philadelphia because when you look at the 76ers, $180 million in salary, they are not over the luxury tax yet. But when you put Grimes in, that puts them over the luxury tax. 195 is the number for the first apron, so they're kind of right at that. We've talked about health and why it matters. Here's why. 55, 52, and 38. Ooh. This is top heavy in salary. That's why we've talked about Joel Embiid health. The rest of the roster, when you look at, certainly, if you put Quentin Grimes and VJ Edgecombe, that's your backcourt. Remember, still have Jared McCain, who's coming back from that injury here. So they've got the youth, but at the end of the day, it's all going to rely on Joel Embiid and how healthy he could be.
Everything, Bobby, you're right, comes back to Joel Embiid, particularly because I was with the 76ers at training camp last year. You and I were talking about this yesterday, Tim, and they told me, Joel told me, Paul George told me, top to bottom, this is a roster that is built knowing that that Joel Embiid isn't going to play 82 games, knowing that he's probably not even going to play 65. He's won MVP already. This is a roster they're trying to build to be able to withstand injury. And then you just saw the floodgates open. So I am hesitant to use the E word, but I'm going to. Expectations.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, well, look, first of all, I'm going to agree with what Ramona just said. We're not allowed to use the word optimistic with this team. I understand that. I'm not going to make eye contact with UD for this segment because I know he wants to jump on me. Maybe this is the Philly connection in me coming out a little bit. But I'm looking at this and saying, wait a second, all three of their stars are expected to be fully healthy at the start of the year. I understand we expect it to be derailed at some point. I don't even look at this year as having happened. I defy anybody to go to Basketball Reference and pull up the history of the Philadelphia 76ers and see a line next to last season. It didn't exist. It was like the Bermuda Triangle year. It never got off the ground. You're going into the year with that level of talent. You just had the third pick in the draft. You pick up Edgecombe, who athletically can play in the league immediately. At some point, you get Jared McCain back. You have this incredible revelation in what they got off the bench last year with their scoring. I look at this team and say, man, let's sleep on them if you want, and go ahead, expect the worst, UD. The bottom line is the talent is there, and if they're healthy, they are going to make noise in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, the talent's there. I have no problem with the talent, but establish your leadership. Who are we going to follow in that locker room? Who is going to be the voice? Not going to be a Joel Embiid. He's not going to play every game. Everybody can't do what Joel Embiid does. He's going to sit out practices. Most guys can't sit out practices. Is it going to be Paul George? We've seen that before. We've seen him with the Clippers. He is not a leader, a great player, but he is not the leader. You need to establish a leader. In my opinion, that leader needs to be Tyrese Maxey. I know he's young. I know it's a lot to put on his shoulders. He is the guy who shows up every night. He is the guy who is in practice every day. He is the guy who is vocal, and if I'm not mistaken, he is the guy who also challenged Joel Embiid about being present when he needed to be present. So, yes, on paper it looks good, but if you don't have leadership, if you haven't established that leader in your locker room, I don't know if you're successful.
Well, the last 4 months have actually been pretty good.
What the hell is that?
But we didn't hear from them, and they kept their pick. Okay.
They embarked on one of the most ambitious tank jobs in the history of the NBA, and it worked.
Nobody tanks like the Sixers, though.
They tanked amazingly. It was one of the most amazing tanks I've ever seen. Number two, they got incredible luck in the lottery to get all the way to the number 3 pick. And number 3, I don't want to reference this as positive, but there's been injuries around in the East. And with their level of talent, with Embiid, George, and Maxey, and I mean, a lot of people are excited about VJ Edgecombe. I don't know what you expect from a rookie, but you got a top 3 pick. Why shouldn't this team be regarded as a contender in the Eastern Conference? They should absolutely be up there in terms of straight talent with the Cavs and the Knicks. We can't count on it, but there's no reason why they can't enter this season with huge expectations. I said it again.
The sequel can be better than the original at times, but I'm just wondering if we've seen this movie before. I think that's where my hesitancy comes from.
We have, and listen, I don't want to speak for Joel Embiid on this because he's going to have a lot to say when he does come back and he does get in front of a microphone, but there's a reason he's not talking. And it's because he understands what we've all been talking about, right? Which is that it was so bad last year. I know people paid money to go to games. I know Josh Harris wrote checks to these salaries. But last year, really, it's like it didn't happen, right? But, like, people saw it, but it was that bad that you want to forget it immediately. And I think Joel Embiid has a pride about being the face of this franchise, about the responsibility he took on by signing that extension and his role within the organization. But you can't say anything if you can't play. And until he comes back and until he can play, then let's wait and see.
Really quick, all my circle of friends are Philly guys. And I'm telling you, the vibe, they're not even talking about the Sixers at all. Maybe that's because the Eagles won the Super Bowl and the Phillies are pretty damn good. Maybe that's why, but it almost feels like even in the city of Philadelphia, they don't expect anything to go right for this franchise.
Like Voldemort.
That's kind of where they're at right now.
Right, it's a boogeyman. You don't want to say it out loud because you don't want to jinx it. But if everything goes right, and with Philadelphia, that's always such a huge, huge if, why not? Why not the 76ers?
Oh, you went there.
I know, I did. I can't help it. They have so much talent. Did you guys hear that? That's the MVP, SGA's bank account. Cha-ching,
I
cha-ching.
see it.
More on